Sarge spills the beans on the Shrike. Enoch's got to make a tough call. And the Monoliths are S.H.I.E.L.D's Infinity Stones. It's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 6, Episode 5. The other thing. Hey everyone, D here, and welcome back to Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I know we've had a week off, and yet it feels like forever. But we're back, and back with a big episode. So, of course, lots of spoilers coming up. Here's your spoiler warning. Also a reminder, quick jump index system. Take a look down in the description below. We'll have this whole review broken down into time-coded, easy-to-jump-to sections. You can jump around, watch this review in any order you want. So, let's get to things. And I gotta say, this is actually kind of a difficult episode to do like a straight review on, because this is we're almost halfway. This is episode 5, 13 episodes for this season. So we're about at the halfway point. This is one of those episodes where they just dump all of this information, all of these words, all of the storylines, all of the bits and pieces that we're going to really need to kind of piece this whole season together. So there was a lot of stuff that happened with this episode. Of course, great storytelling to be sure. We had, of course, May and Coulson. Well, May and Sarge. But for May, kind of a rough little meeting there. And I think they handled that very well. I liked how they used the flashback sequences to kind of put us back into her sea of how she is feeling. She is bouncing out these two very conflicted bits of feelings, seeing the face of Coulson, reminding her of Tahiti, those days of relaxation, being with a man that she loved, and yet also seeing this imposter, this completely other person wearing that face. And just, I think they used those elements really well, continuing some of the storyline, giving us a little background on the time in Tahiti, which was nice. Coulson and May smiling and laughing. How often do we get to see that, huh? Like never. So that was kind of cool. And then also we had all of the Fitz stuff. So we got, and with the May and Coulson, you got to remember Sarge, not Coulson. Looks like Coulson, but is Sarge. We do get our big background. Who he is, how long he's been fighting for, which we're going to be talking on all this for a little bit. Who the Shrike are, the bat bird creature. Question, bat or bird? I know we refer to bats because it refers back to the whole Hunter Thompson bit, Fear and Loathing on the Planet of Kitson, because Bat Country is a big thing from here at Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, the book, which that's sort of pulled off of. But Benson refers to it as a bird. And in fact, they're called shrikes, and when we see the picture of them, that looks like a shrike. Shrike's an actual earth bird. It's a predatory bird, attacks birds larger than it. Very tough. But yeah, when we saw the little image of the bird, the creature inside of Keller there, that's sort of the profile of a shrike. So, it makes sense to call them a bird, but they seem to have not feathery wings. They seem to have more like bat wings, like membranes and stuff. So, I don't know. I guess you could call it either way. Shrike is more of a bird, so that makes sense, but, And again, we're going to get into some more of the particulars of this later on. But so we do get this sort of information, this tie-in. We get the Benson sort of figuring out what's going on with the birds, the chemical composition, and that opens up things with the Monolith, which opens up a whole big can of words. And then, of course, in space, we have our other Chronicons finding out, very upset about planetary destruction, forcing Enoch, who I love, really do. Him starting out with all of his morose statements. Oh, everything is wrong. I am a parable to warn children. It was just, I love him sad. To being caught in kind of a tough decision. He likes Fitz. It's his best friend. But he also has his people to think about. And so we get a lot of, but even that, I think, gives us a lot of hints to kind of this bigger story for what's happening. So, a great episode, touched on everything, dropped a whole bunch of information on our lap, and yet again sort of propelled the story forward. It was not boring in any sense of the word. So, let's start things off with May and Sarge. And look, I know we've got a lot of Felinda fans out there with you. So I think our opening this week was a nice emotional gut punch. Just putting us all back right there with May, with Phil, in Tahiti, having a blast, just being together, having that emotion. I thought it was a beautiful way to sort of set things up and then do that quick transition, sliding in and out between the memory and the now of Phil Coulson and Sarge, two very different. How is it Sarge describes her later on? He was your dream, I am your nightmare. And that really is sort of the emotional place that we are put in this episode. And much of the emotion really comes between these two characters working out. And Ming-Na and Clark Gregg just did an amazing job. These are obviously actors that know each other very well. They know their characters. They know the relationship. They're able to play so many little subtle emotions, both Clark Gregg playing Phil Coulson in those flashbacks, and in a way referring to Coulson in some of his acts, but also a very different edge to him, but still sort of a playful bit. So, I mean, really the banter back and forth, I think, was a lot of the real big emotional charge in this episode. But here's also where we get our main kind of big information dump on what's going on with Sarge, who he is, where he's coming from, who is he hunting. As mentioned before, he is hunting the Shrike, who are traveling from world to world, infecting the beings that are there, driving them nuts, finding the ley lines of the planet, and shooting out their crystals, and that sort of sums up, they hit a critical mass of that, and it sums up Pachacuti and takes over the planet. So Sarge is here fighting the good fight. It's a rough fight. Obviously, you go and see worlds fall and fall and fall despite all of your attempts to stop it. You get a little edgy. People are kind of disposable. You're thinking big picture. So that really seems to be where Sarge is coming. Again, not a bad guy trying to do the right thing, just maybe willing to cross more lines than most other people are. But yeah, so that's the deal. That's the Shrike. Now, that's really important for a couple of reasons. One, it's not parallel universe. They're traveling between universes, like from Earth to Earth to Earth to Earth to Earth. You know, Earth 98, Earth 103. No, this is across this galaxy, this planet. And that seems to be tied in with the whole Chronicom thing. And again, we'll touch on that. But again, all these pieces are coming together in this episode. So he's traveling from planet to planet. So what is the deal with Phil? I mean, it's him. The DNA is that of Phil Coulson. But what he has said is that he has been traveling for 100 years before, and will be traveling and fighting 100 years from now. He's been on worlds, planets that are moving at up to the speed of light. Faster you move at the speed of light, your time moves regularly, but the time for everyone else around you moves a lot faster. So in some ways that doesn't really say anything. Because if he's on a planet moving at the speed of light, and he's there for, X amount of time, that can be 3 decades, that could be 9 decades, that could be almost 100 years right there, however long he's been on the planet. He's implied that he's been to a lot of different places. I've been to a lot of different worlds, not one where somebody recognizes me, and yet you know me. Everyone seems to think that they know me here. But I did find it interesting I like that May had sort of pressed Sarge on what did he remember, how far back, a week, a month, a year, kind of pushing that time frame for how long Coulson's been dead. In a way, I mean, we know it's a year since the end of last season, and they went to Tahiti, and they had more time than we thought we'd have. But we don't really have an exact time frame of how long they were in Tahiti, and that's how long it's been since Coulson has actually died. Though it was weird during one of the flashbacks at the end, he drifted off to sleep. I was wondering if they were going to be implying that he had sort of died right there next to her, which was going to make me really sad if they were going to have that reveal in that moment. The wine glass and just chilling next to May. That would have been sad. But when she pressed Sarge on how far, remember, he didn't actually really respond. He does go into, again, that he's been traveling for 100 years. But like I said, if he's been moving in sort of the speed of light for how long he's been gone, that could have covered 100 years. I mean, so to him, it still would have been just a few months, a year, less than a year. So there would have been mental things and stuff. It seems to apply that a little different. But it does sort of create some interesting moments. And I am going to get into kind of a bigger theory before I wrap all of this up. But I do want to touch on some of the bit moments from the episode before I do that, so it all kind of comes together and makes sense. However, while I loved Phil in this, let's be honest, or Sarge in this, let's be honest, May owned these scenes. She had several of them. Several of them that were perfect. Made this week's choice a little tough. So it might have to be sort of a list. For our Scene of the Week! For this week, say it's all May. Pick. I'll give you a choice. I'll give you a choice. You can pick any of them. If you want intense May, you have the stare down with Sarge. When he is implying in with he's trying to poke buttons at who Coulson was. Oh, did you kill him? Oh, it was the other thing. And actually, I loved how they used that phrase nicely. Both here and in the flashback, Coulson uses that, referring to the chest pain. Oh, it's not the wine, it's the other thing. So, for Sarge, he's using it as, oh, this is a guy that you were in love with. For Coulson, he was using it to, oh, no, it's the thing that's killing me. And I find it interesting that both usage of the other thing, you automatically know what they mean, even though individually those two mean very different things. I thought that was kind of cool. But she sort of pieced Sarge down there. But you're the imposter. I know Phil Coulson. I know where he grew up. I know his friends. I know his parents. I know all these things. I know all about his life. I know those whole time stuff. And I just met you. So who are you? And again, I think this is going to play into something very interesting, considering we have all these, everything seems to keep coming back to Earth with all these universal problems that we're having. But I mean, that was a great, just acting intensity scene, kind of just piecing Sarge down, just sort of taking him apart with all just energy, and it was awesome. But then, of course, you get Space Zombie Fight. Come on, that was awesome. Getting to see the Shrike in action. I love how that was set up, too. You think it's the audition. Oh, you're going to go up against this guy. And May's like, no, don't worry, man. It's going to be fine. We're going to get you out of that. And Sarge just, boom, bullet to the head. All right, have a good luck. We'll see you in a minute. And then just a great fight following. But seeing, again, the dangers of the Shrike. Kill the host. It goes mad looking for a new one. Animates zombie fight. Of course, you get the backward crawl, which is always creepy. Very reminiscent of Japanese horror right there. But just, again, a great fight. And I love May in that taking out the joints. Wasn't going to initially kill. Oh, yeah? Animated zombie? Obviously not alive. It's got a bullet in the head. But she's not trying to do the stabby kill first. She's doing her hand-to-hand. She's immobilizing, forcing this thing to be incapable of fighting back. Which, of course, then goes into super energy mode and chrysalis, and then May's got to super flip over and stabby the thing. Be done. Audition passed. But Space Zombie Fight. How can you not love Space Zombie Fight? And then, of course, God, the wrap-up was just... Okay, the second fight a little bit more. Did love her taking out Snow there. Butterfly calls her crazy, uses the perfect mental, and just a great subtle scene of, you've affected me. Oh, I'm bouncing my foot, crazy. Foot stops moving, now you have my attention. I don't like when people call me crazy that. It's just sort of again, this is May, using manipulations, whatever tools that she has around for, just gets her to step forward, boom, takes out the face, headbutt, knockout. Beautiful. And then, of course, the fight with Sarge in the cab. That was just beautiful on many levels. One, she kept her promise. She said it was going to hurt. Despite the fact that she might believe him, despite the fact of anything, he still killed people. That's still Coulson's face. She's still not very happy about it. Great fight. Even him just kind of using, again, Coulson with, I thought you loved this face, and then the whole, he was your dream, I'm your nightmare line, was awesome. But it's May. And May is freaking super badass. But doesn't kill him. Of course wants to capture, wants information, but as much as she is talking about how much he angers her, having that face, this person, this imposter, it's still Coulson, at least on a DNA level. And then again, we get that flash moment there of putting the hand up. She did it in Tahiti for Phil when he fell asleep with the wine. Hopefully asleep, like I said. And here it's the same thing. Putting Sarge's hand back up onto his lap. Yeah, she may hate him, but it's still Coulson. Still get that emotional bit of conflict going on there. And I thought that was sort of a great way to sort of wrap up that whole thing. Yeah, she believes him, but still not very happy with him, and yet can recognize that something definitely needs to be done. So, all those could be scenes of the week. Pick the one you like the most. I love them all. Zombie fight, mostly. Meanwhile, back on base, they're figuring out some of the chemistry, dealing with some interpersonal issues. You know, we catch a little few moments there. We get Mac, obviously, a little stressed out, seeing things as a loss. May is gone. Deke, left a couple of references to that. Deke is Deke. He's annoying. That's how sort of everybody referred to him. But that moment of him reconnecting with YoYo, or trying to, I think it gives us a sign that that breakup did not go well. It wasn't like they just drifted apart. Because I think Mac is being, emotionally right there, asking YoYo, hey, look, all this stuff is fine. Take a moment, Keller. I knew you were there. Sorry I had to do these things, trying to be supportive, trying to make sure that she has some connection to. And yet, she's very cold to him. And he does seem a little needy. It's like, I'm lost, I'm confused. You were the person I reached out to. I mean, is that too soon to be doing that? Yeah, she knows that he still kind of has a thing for her. But that's, whatever that separation was, the energy that I got out of that a little bit is that was not well. That he really kind of pushed her away. Or something, because she didn't really want to have anything to do with comforting him, taking his comfort, even just on a friend note, just kind of being there. That was gone. So a little bit of interesting insight there. The Benson stuff, I like Benson as a character. I like where he's going. I know there has to be a certain arc, but the little conflict they had's kind of going on with YoYo, a little worried, is Benson going to go off? Is a drinking thing. I thought they sort of dealt with that, so I thought that was a little bit kind of a rehash. What was it, a bit so we could then have the story moment with Benson talking about 2 years ago, losing his husband, and he had to make that choice. He was dead, but had to turn off the machines, conflict with the family. I mean, there was a good kind of emotional bit, but just the worry and concern. I mean, even when Benson kind of came in and saw YoYo there, it's like, oh, you're here to spy on me? It just, I didn't think that was necessary. I'm glad they kind of moved past that quickly, but I wanted to go on. Just take the story and just move forward. The fact that he might fall back into drinking or isn't totally there. Yes, his best was 20 years ago. Nice line. But anyway, the whole point of this was basically to give us our chemical insight into the Shrike there. What is that chemical composition? What is that familiar to? YoYo's definitely seen it, so has the rest of S.H.I.E.L.D. It's the Monolith. Monoliths, several monoliths. The same composition of our big rocks, which is why I'm saying the monoliths are kind of becoming S.H.I.E.L.D.'s Infinity Stones, almost like Tesseracts. They just keep popping up. They keep tying things together. They control space and time and this new version, possibly life or death, life and death. So they all have their different, effects that they have on the world. So now we're sort of creating the different ones. We have the space one, we have the time one, now we have the life one. It's all starting to sound familiar, right? And also, we've had the Monoliths since end of season 2. So very present in with S.P.O.I.L.E., something that keeps coming back to. And so that sends Branson off, embracing his S.P.O.I.L.E. decisions here. Hopefully, like I said, this is great. We're not going to have any more of this questioning of Branson anymore. Let's just move on to the cool, juicy science story stuff. But that does send him back to the Yucatan and various other places where the monoliths were found, hopefully to find some more information. Why? Because Pachacooty, which is the last thing Wallboy said before he died, and of course what Sarge is calling the end of everything, well, Pachacooty is an Incan word. It's actually the name of an Incan emperor, a very powerful Incan emperor. They believe that actually Machu Picchu was an estate of his. So again, we're bringing things back into Earth. Why would aliens that are traveling from world to world to world be using the name of an Incan king? Why are the birds look like Shrike, which is an Earth bird? Why is Phil Coulson, Sarge, an Earthling, going across the universe, the galaxy, over a long period of time, trying to stop these things? We keep coming back to Earth. It keeps it familiar to us, but I think what this is going to show as this all starts to come together, this is where everything starts. Where everything starts, when, that might be a little more complex. Because that, of course, brings us to our third main storyline here, which is space stuff, the search for Fitz, the finding of Fitz, and Enoch's very tough decisions. Like I said, I love Enoch. I love his view on the world. I love his interactions with people. I love how he's kind of used a lot too. The whole best friend thing. Fitz used that, oh no, we're best friends. And here it is, the girls come up and they need something from him. No, we're best friends. Well, no, because you helped us in the future, which he did. And you sacrificed yourself to get us back to save the world, which he did. So you saved the universe. Kind of. That might be a little bit of a stretch. There were several steps afterwards, but still, just using that because you're our best friend and you're gonna help us out. It's just so mean to manipulate Enoch that way. And they know they're doing it. That does not justify what Enoch does, but let's say it, he's in a tough position. Atara shows up. We find out that Enoch is not really wanted for manipulating the universe. That Fitz is not really wanted for, again, damaging the fabric of the universe. They're not wanted for any of these things. They're wanted because they time traveled. Because Fitz time traveled, and they want to know how you did it. Because Cronia 2 is gone. Their planet was destroyed by what appears to be the Shrike. They aren't said by name, but it's talked about in the same terms. A plague, moving from planet to planet. They were causing a disturbance in space. We investigated, then it showed up, and then before anything, took out their world. Now, they seem to survive, but as Chronicons and not actual biological beings, would the Shrike not have connected with them? They don't have the same biology, the same interaction, so was it just regular creatures on Cronia 2? I don't know what their population. I don't know anything about the planet. But so it seems odd that the Shrike could do it unless there was someone else there that they could infect and thus create the whole crystalline ley line interaction thing. But that does seem to be what's implied there. That it is the Shrike that came. And then the Confederacy saying to pick the planet clean. So the Cronies took their ships and took off. So that's sort of the whole thing. And they have been looking for Fitz in order to find out how he did it. Now, there are a couple of questions here. Has it just been in the last year that Chronia 2 was taken out? Because again, it's the first that Enoch knew of anything, and when they came back to the lighthouse, the other Chronicon that was at the lighthouse, he didn't seem to know anything, and he did seem to have some communication stuff. So this all seems to be recently. Also, they have the Confederacy ships, which they took from the Confederacy, so it wasn't them that attacked Fitz and Enoch originally. That probably seemed to be the Confederacy that attacked Fitz and Simmons, or Fitz and Enoch there. And then they had their ships taken by the Cronians. Just trying to piece how all of these things kind of have gone over the past year where everybody is. But like I was saying before, I don't necessarily blame Enoch. He's in a tough position. I guess at the end, when we had our little epilogue scenes, he does sort of imply it was the only choice that he could make to save Gemma and Fitz and his people as well. Save Fitz, save Gemma, save the people seemed to be the only choice that he could do. That makes sense. I don't think he thought Atara was there. It didn't seem bad with Atara's complete plans to kill everybody else. And that strikes me a little odd. She seems a little ruthless, doesn't she? I mean, I know that she's scary and the Chronicons don't have the same emotional bent and there are hunters and they can be dangerous, but she's very much not about just let them go, getting what she wants. Very insistent about killing everybody else that's not involved. Which is... I'm curious if that's going to play it. I know I'm going to hit all this stuff in a minute. There's all these pieces here. Also, loved the Piper Davis interplay. Always fun with those two. I loved the bit, and when they figure out when Enoch gives up Gemma, and they realize, okay, well, they can't kill Gemma, can't kill Fitz, so I can quake! And goes right after Tara. That was awesome as well. And then we had our big final moment where Gemma gives herself up so that everybody else can live. And she's right. They can get off the ship. They might be able to fight, but they're surrounded by a General Armada. They would have been taken out. They would have been captured, and then everybody else would have been killed. Gemma giving herself up like this, only way everybody else survives. It really is. And she's going to be with Fitz. So, I mean, it's kind of a win all around. And we know the Chronicons better be in serious, are going to be in serious trouble having both Gemma and Fitz together. They can do anything, which may end up being actually the cause of all of this down the road. So, Atara wants Fitz to make a time machine so she can go back in time and save her people from destruction. What seems to be the Shrike. The only other thing that we know that can travel through time in Agents of S.P.O.I.L.E., let's not talk about the movie MCU right now. This was made before Endgame was out, so they're doing their own thing right here. The only other thing that they know is, of course, through their Infinity Stones, the Monoliths, of which there are several that can do many things. And they are composed by the same material that the Shrike themselves seem to be made of, that are named, whose leader is named after an Incan emperor. Which ties everything back into Earth, again, because the Shrike are Earth birds. Well, there are Earth birds named Shrike that look very similar to them. Additionally, we also have Sarge, a genetically identical to Phil Coulson, who has been traveling for a very long time fighting the Shrike. What does this all mean? I think, and we're getting right into theory here, that Fitz and Gemma create the Monolith. That they create these things, and through that probably create the Shrike. That might involve having to go back to Earth to get some elements, informations from the Monolith. Do they get the Monolith and create the Shrike out of it? Or I think they create the Monolith in order to travel back in time, and one of the side effects of that is the creation of the Shrike. I mentioned that Atara seems to be rather ruthless. My concern is she is Pachakutek. Pachacutec, Pachacuti, it's the same thing. I may have jumped back and forth a few different times. Same person, just different pronunciations of the name. And then, but where does Sarge come in? Well, if you're going to go back in time, if you're going to do any time travel, why don't you save the guy that you lost? Now, I don't think at this point Fitz actually knows that they lost Coulson. He has been traveling and doing other things. He still thought Gemma was in the future and so on. So the last that he knows, he was sitting having pie, and that's the last time that he saw Coulson back at the diner. So that Gemma's going to have to sort of infer him onto that, but I think that might be. If you're going to travel in time, if you're going to travel through space, that might be the place they go, and through those effects. It all seems to tie back in together. I think Fitz is going to be, in trying to save Gemma and trying to do what they need to do, they're going to accidentally create the Monolith and the Shrike. Those are all tied in under the same thing, and I think it's Fitz that's behind that. And I think he goes back in time and maybe... See, it's hard to tell with Coulson or with Sarge, because he has no memory of anybody else. So that seems to disqualify him as this Coulson. But I don't know, did he go back like ages ago and get a super young Coulson, and then we just have this as a time split variant? Much like Deke is? Of course, Sarge also doesn't seem to have any memory of Earth at all. It's not like, hey, this is all familiar, oh, I'm back at home. So, still trying to figure out the whole Sarge particular thing. But the fact that the Chronicons, their planet was destroyed by this plague, causing disturbances, that definitely seems to involve the Shrike. Now they've got Fitz to create a time machine. The only thing they know is the Monolith. So it seems to all tie together. I think this is going to create some big time traveling issue. But I guess, there still has to be some stuff to figure out. But look, I'm pretty sure this is all going to tie together. Like I said, all this information seems too many little connections. How exactly all these pieces come in together, not entirely sure. But there would be a certain irony if Tara ends up being the cause of her own destruction, her own planet's destruction. Again, that ruthlessness, it seems a bit much. But anyway, I think that does pretty much cover everything. Like I said, it's a big review. There's a lot of stuff to kind of jump into. Gonna be chewing on these things, I think, for the whole week. So really do want to know what you guys think. Where do you think we're coming out? How do you think this all ties together? Do you think Fitz causes all of this? Do you think he creates the Monolith? Or does he go back and use some of that same technology? It just, like I said, it seems to all be piecing together in this very particular way. And what is Sarge's actual story? Is he from this universe? Seems to be. Is he created? Is he a copy? Has he been traveling through time himself? Lots of questions. Really curious how more of this is going to lay out, but we should find out more next week. At least it looks like we get our final Gemma and Fitz reunion. I like the fact they didn't do that this episode. I mean, we had that brief kind of moment of them together. But I like that they were able to focus on the May Coulson, the May Sarge energy interplay this episode. And next episode, we're really going to have Fitz and Simmons back together. And that looks super trippy. So really looking forward to that. But please, everyone, let me know what you guys are thinking. A lot of information dropped down. There could be a lot of theories happening right here. I want to know what you guys think. Please put those down in the section below. Which, of course, usually what I say after I say thank you so much for joining me with this review. I'm doing this a little backwards. But yes, put down your thoughts down in the section below. Thank you so much for joining me with this review. I will just go ahead and wrap things up. I've been talking for a while. You can always catch me on Twitter and Instagram. I am at Darren Jakes. You can hit this button to subscribe. You can check out some past reviews right here. We got Legion Season 3 starting up in like 10 days. That's going to be awesome. Hope you guys can check that out. But for now, that's going to be it for me. I'm D, and I'm out of here. Catch you guys next time. Bye-bye.